Excuse me. My name is Mark Terrell. I am the CEO of Lifeline, Lasting Change, and Crosswinds, and I want to welcome you tonight to Jazzing Up January. We're very excited about you being here. We hope that you're going to enjoy the evening. Hope you've enjoyed the food. I plan to try to sneak over and get as much food while you guys aren't looking as possible, but I hope you enjoy it. I'd like to tell you a little bit about our purpose tonight. Our purpose tonight is to bring awareness to Crosswinds. And, if any of you know Brenda, raise money. I heard some snickering. We know that, right? Our organization is somewhat of a mystery to some people. Some people have come to us and said, how long have you been in our community? What do you do? How big are you? And why haven't we heard about you? Tonight, we hope to solve those issues. On your table, you're going to find a piece of paper and a pen that if you have a question that we don't answer tonight, we would love to know what that question is, and they'll collect that later tonight. We want to make sure whether it's we can text you, email you, put it in a newsletter, we'll be more than happy to talk to you about that. But again, it's about awareness, and again, it's about raising money for our mission. Before I go farther, I want to introduce my board of directors. And if my board of directors from Lifeline, Crosswinds, and Lasting Change, if you could stand up, I'd appreciate it. All right? Yeah, thank you. I have been blessed. We have been blessed by a very, very wonderful board. They are leaders, they are entrepreneurs, and they believe in our mission. And I'm very, very thankful for them. What I'd like to do now, though, is to introduce our title sponsor, and Mike Marhanke, and he's the president of IEB Bank. And I shared with Mike a little bit earlier, I said that they've been supporters of us, I think probably before they should have been supporters of us, when we were very small. Mike has a passion, like I do, for Fort Wayne in Northeast Indiana, not for it to be a good community, but to be a great community. So I've asked Mike if he'd share a few words.
Good evening. Mark gave us an opportunity a couple years ago to step up and be a part of this event. And he said, take some time and think about this. And I said, absolutely. As he said, our bank goes back many, many years with Lifeline. And we're very, very pleased to be associated with such a fine organization. And as you hear tonight, some of the things that they're doing, I'm sure that you will feel the passion and feel it from the heart, as we do, to help them be successful in what they do on a daily basis. This is an important event for us. We have some of our team here down front. We also have several of our directors from our organization, so I'm very pleased to see their support. So once again, thank you. And it's nice to see you tonight. And good luck, Mark.
Wow. What is a Crosswinds? I have to be honest, when the name came out, my lovely wife, who is sitting at this table, asked a very important question. Who in the heck came up with the name Crosswinds? And I had to raise my hand sheepishly and say, I did. I didn't think that, it didn't really help her much at that point until I explained to her what a crosswinds was. A crosswind is a wind that can affect a plane flying, a boat traveling across the ocean. And what it does is it moves the plane or the boat off course. And what we deal with is we deal with families that are having crosswinds. It may be a divorce. It may be an addiction. It may be depression. It may be a child that just can't fit into the family. And if you ask any pilot, they'll tell you, what do you do when you come into a crosswinds? At least my nature would be to run. And that's what most of our families do. They run from the crosswinds. And it's exactly what you shouldn't do. You need to fly into the crosswinds. You need to face it. What we do at Crosswinds is we help families deal with the issues that they're dealing with. We are all about helping families. Our goal is to restore, rebuild, and reclaim the family. It's very simple. We're a faith-based organization, so our faith is we're rooted in our faith. However, we work with people of all faiths and no faith at all. But again, it's important to know that that's what we're about. The other thing that I'd like to share with you is this. Some people say, where have you been? We've never heard of you. Well, 23 years ago, we were a small organization of 17 employees. We had a budget of about $600,000, and we worked with about 100 kids a year. This year, our budget is over $25 million. We're closing on 500 employees, and we'll work with over 30,000 children and families this year in Indiana, in all 92 counties in the state of Indiana. The interesting thing is this. Lifeline is what we've been around since 1968, and we work with lots and lots of children that are in the system. Crosswinds was created and receives absolutely no state or federal money, and that was intentional. We are very excited about what we're doing, and what I'd like for you to do, if you could, on your table, I keep wanting to say desk, but on your table is a brochure that looks like this. And what I'd like for you to do is I'd like for you to open it up. We've spent quite a bit of time on this, but we really wanted to make sure that when you leave today, you clearly understand what we're about. And in the middle and on the screen, you see the difference between Crosswinds and Lifeline. Like I said, Lifeline's been around since 1968. We have a tremendous amount of experience working with children and families that are in the court system. But I have to be honest with you. We've grown very, very tired of waiting for them to get in the system for us to work with them. Crosswinds was created to work with families that are in trouble, troubled families, not families that are in trouble. What a great idea to be able to work with them before they get in the system. We're not the smartest people, but it makes sense to me. But if you look at the graph, it tells you the things that we start working with. Communication. Are there any parents in here that have teenagers? Do we have a communication issue? Sometimes more than not. I would never say that my wife and I have communication issues because we never do. But communication can get worse and worse. So it can be marriage issues, grief, forgiveness. But if you move farther to the right, the things get more and more severe. Trauma, divorce, violence, anger, addiction, unforgiveness. We want to try to keep people from the right side of this equation. But if you look at the top, it talks about the things that we do at Crosswinds. And we'll talk more about this later. But one of the things we do is consultation. Have you ever looked up the word marijuana to see how many pieces of information are on that? And maybe some of you shouldn't. But if you have a child that's struggling with marijuana, 135 million pieces of information. 135. Sometimes you just don't know where to go. We have staff that you can call, and we'll help you find the help, even if it isn't with us. I love the movie, The Miracle on 34th Street, where Santa sends the family to Gimbel's. Do you remember that? It's always the right thing to do the right thing. And then we do coaching. And coaching is what I find very interesting. A lot of people don't like the idea of counseling, but they love coaching. I have a son who plays football. He's gotten lots of coaching to throw, to do all sorts of things. I even have a golf pro in Fort Wayne that is paying me not to tell you that he's coached me. And that's the truth. Coaching and counseling are very similar, but it's a little bit better. Maybe a family needs a little bit of coaching. And the last thing, or next to the last thing we do is in-home family counseling. We're in over 3,000 homes a week. Rather than just working with the child, we work with the entire family. And it's amazing what happens when the whole family works together. I'm a business person. I'm not a counselor. I'm not a social worker. I'm not a therapist. I'm none of the helping professions. Some of my staff wonder what I am. My background is in business. When I know that something costs 10% of the cost of what it costs to put a kid in residential and it's 30% more successful, That makes sense to me. I just want you to know this is very important for you to walk away from here having this, because on the very back it even talks about how to get a hold of us, and we'll talk more about that later. I'm very excited about you being here tonight, and you're going to learn a lot. We have some great speakers, and what I'd like to do now is I'd like to introduce Brenda Gerber Vincent. Yes, there's 3 parts to that name. I got it right, Scott. And she is my Vice President of Development, and she'd like to make an introduction.
Good evening. It is now my privilege to introduce the Governor and First Lady of Indiana, Mike and Karen Pence. I could spend the entire evening listing all that they've accomplished since taking office in 2013, but the list is too long. Like the fact that the governor has achieved the largest state tax cut in Indiana's history, or that unemployment is lower than it's been in over a decade, or that 100,000 private sector jobs have been added, and the fact we're ranked #1 in the Midwest for doing business. And for the First Lady, well, she's created the First Lady's Charitable Foundation, whose sole purpose it is to encourage and support youth and families. She also serves as the official bicentennial ambassador. Did you know that Indiana will turn 200 years old this year? She also shares her passion for teaching and education as she travels the state visiting schools. Yes, I could go on and on. The list is extremely impressive. But tonight I want to share not what they do, but more importantly, who they are. Because it's who they are that makes them so special. You see, before joining Lifeline and Crosswinds, I had the rare and unique opportunity of having served both the governor as his deputy finance director and the First Lady as her chief of staff. I share this not to give you my resume, but to add credibility to my introduction. I had a front row seat. I witnessed firsthand their devotion to one another, the love they have for their children, and their unwavering commitment to our state. It was during this time I came to understand and fully appreciate what it meant to be a servant leader. Our governor and First Lady exemplify servant leadership. They are people of great faith, conviction, character, and integrity. People ask me all the time, so what are they like? No, I mean like what are they really like? And I tell them, if you only knew how much they cared, how much they care about each other, how much they care about their family, how much they care about their state, how much they care about their staff, how much they care about individual, how much they care about every Hoosier. It would only be then could you fully appreciate just how lucky we are to have them leading our state. Please help me welcome the Governor and First Lady to the stage.
Thank you. Good night.
No kidding. Way to put the pressure on, Brenda.
Thanks, Brenda. How about a round of applause for Brenda Gerber-Vincent? She is such a joy and such a blessing in our life. You want to hop up there, dear? Okay, good. We're going to do the stool thing tonight. Thank you all for coming tonight. Thank you so much to Mark Terrell and the whole team at Crosswinds and Lifeline. I can tell you, as a guest tonight, but as your governor, that the service that Lifeline has provided in partnership with the people of Indiana for so many years in 92 counties has changed lives and saved families. And we could give Mark and the whole team at Crosswinds and Lifeline another round of applause. This is a great, great organization. I also want to say, I'm going to stand up a little bit. Is that okay? I'll just stand for a second. I also want to say thanks to Mike and IAB. Thanks for the generosity in, where'd he go? Missed him right there. Great. Thanks for the generosity in being lead sponsor and to all the sponsors tonight. And to John Sampson and Senator Jim Merritt and Senator Jim Banks who are here. Thank you. We're glad to be your warm-up act tonight. And appreciate your service to the people of Indiana more than we can say. Thanks so much for Jazzin Up January. How about a round of applause for that band that was on the stage before? I thought that was really pretty amazing. But tonight we wanted to share a few things. Karen and I have been talking about this since Brenda called us and invited us to be a small part of this evening. I would tell you that tonight I could talk about the work that Lifelines and Crosswinds have done in and across the state of Indiana and in families, as Mark said so well, families that are in trouble and troubled families across the state. I could tell you about the state's our new task force for drug enforcement, treatment, and prevention, and how much that harmonizes the latter two parts with this organization and the work that it's done. To look at Crosswinds and to see the work of coming alongside troubled families is all about what we want to come behind, and what we're so grateful to see so many of you coming behind tonight. I see a number of members of our task force who are here tonight who are helping us forge through this issue, because some people stop me sometimes and they say, what keeps you up at night? And I tell them it's usually not what you read about in the paper. What keeps me up at night is what's happening because of drug abuse and drug addiction in the state of Indiana. There is no community of any size that isn't touched by this. And we're going to, as the senators you'll hear from later, we're going to get tougher on people that deal drugs this year in the state of Indiana. And so we should. But you're here tonight because you already know we can't just arrest our way out of this problem. We've also got to be about treatment, and we've got to be about expanding access to treatment. That's why we're building the first new mental health hospital in a generation in the state of Indiana. And we're not only going to be adding bricks and mortars, we're changing the method of care at that new facility in central Indiana. We'll be exporting that all across the state of Indiana and through telemedicine to every single community in the state. But it's also about prevention, and that's why I get so excited about Crosswinds. So excited about the vision of this ministry of really coming alongside families that are experiencing those crosswinds. And so I thank you for that. I would tell you I was at Lancaster Central today, and I met with some fourth grade kids. I was telling Karen about it. And Brenda mentioned that it's our 200th year in the state of Indiana. So the first thing I said was to the kids, I said, who can tell me what we call our 200th year? And a couple of kids looked kind of nervous about it. And then I didn't tell you this yet. And so I said, okay, it starts with a B. So when we're 200 years old, it starts with a B. And this one lonely boy raised his hand in the middle of the crowd. And I called on him, and he said, birthday? Which I thought that was really great. I said, yes, right, good. There's another word. Mark that down, Jim. That was pretty good. Birthday. But it being our bicentennial, it was a lot of fun. But I met with teachers, too. And it's so interesting that we're getting ready to come here tonight, Mark, because I love to get in a classroom about every 2 weeks in Indiana, but I love to meet with our teachers in the lounge. I said, what's your greatest challenge? Without hesitation, one of the teachers said to me, who'd been teaching there for 30 years, she said, it's what's happened with the breakdown of the family. The greatest challenge that we have in the schools here in Wells County is the fact that 30 years ago, the condition of families, the support structure that families provided for kids was different than it is today. And so the work that you all are about tonight, the generosity that you've shown by being here tonight, I just want to commend you for, because you understand that strengthening and rebuilding the families will be how we proceed with stronger children, stronger communities, a stronger state, and a stronger nation. But we didn't want to talk so much about policy tonight. We want to talk to you about our family in the time that we have together. Because I would say to you, by way of being transparent, we've had crosswinds in our lives. I grew up in a pretty traditional, big Irish Catholic family in a small town. I had 3 brothers and 2 sisters, and this loud, cacophonous family life. My grandfather was an immigrant. But my dad had followed work out of Chicago and into Indiana because he frankly came from a very troubled home. I would come to find as I came to adulthood that my dad's situation at home was pretty tough. And it minted in him a commitment to be a different kind of a father. And he's gone from me now 30 years. We lost my dad when just a couple of years after we were married. But he's still other than my faith, he's the dominant influence in my life because my dad just decided he was going to be a father like he always hoped he'd had. And he was. Karen's experience was different. Her father left her mom and her 3 sisters when she was 4 years old. And her mom would remarry when she was about 11, but Karen grew up pretty quickly in a challenging environment and a blended family. And her stepfather is her only surviving parent to this day, and it's the only grandfather our kids have ever known. But so she came out of an experience where, because of that, I brag on her pretty quick. She finished in great shape in high school. I won't tell you that she was valedictorian because she doesn't like me to say that. Went to Butler, finished in 3 years, paid her own way, got her master's degree, went on to be a school teacher, and my wife's an overcomer, and I'm incredibly proud of everything she's accomplished. But when we were married, out of that experience, we just made decisions about our family, and I'm going to pass the microphone off to her in a second. But I'll never forget when I told my dad in 1987 that I was interested in running for public office. My dad was a small businessman in a small town and had no use for lawyers or politicians. So I was a source of great pride to him. You can only imagine. But I'll never forget, Dad said to me, he goes, "Well, I don't really think that would work for you." And I said, "Why?" And he said, "Well, because you love family, and you're about family." And I said, "Well, Dad, I think you could be in public service and be about family." And he said to me, "Well, prove it. Prove it." And so from very early on in our married life and in our career, we made decisions in our family life that Karen will reflect on in a moment that really we celebrated 30 years married last year. We have 3 wonderful kids. Our 2 girls are in college. My one daughter, I'll brag on her, is a writer and actually got an agent last year. She wrote a children's book. Our other daughter is preparing to go to law school, and our son's in the United States Marine Corps training as a pilot in Pensacola, Florida. We're incredibly proud of our kids, and we're incredibly close to our kids. They annoy us with the amount of texting and emails that we get on a regular basis, but we're very, very close. And I have to think my dad is smiling somewhere, because he put his finger in my chest and he told me to prove it. And by God's grace and the woman standing next to me, we've been able to. But it's because we made decisions. People would sometimes ask me early in my political career, they would say, where do you see yourself in 5 years, right? Like, they're always like, well, I'll tell you where I see myself, right? And I'd always answer it the same way. I'd say, home for dinner, right? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? I said, home for dinner. And they'd say, why do you say home for dinner? I say, because, I really don't have to decide to want to work hard. That's kind of hardwired to work hard. I don't have to decide to be energetic. What I have to decide to do is to close the day planner, close the folder, and get in the car and be home for dinner, sitting at the table with our kids and with Karen. And we made decisions. We made decisions to do just that, and it's made all the difference in our lives, in the richness of our lives. And I want to introduce to you the biggest reason why we're blessed as a family, and it's because of this extraordinary woman who happens to be the First Lady of Indiana, but she's just the love of my life and the greatest mom and wife in the world, Karen Pence.
Thank you. I have to say thank you to Brenda for that introduction, too. Brenda is actually on the board of the Indiana First Ladies Charitable Foundation and puts a lot of hours in combing through grants. But I guess I want to start out, first of all, and say we don't have a perfect family. When I met Mike, I had been divorced and came from a divorced family. And when we got married, we couldn't have children. So for 6 years, we tried and tried and tried and thought, we're going to be one of those families that never has children. And so it took us 6 years. I finally did get pregnant, and then we had 3 in 3 years, and so we finally said, whoa, that's good, we're good here. But I think that those things, those crosswinds, Mark, are what have helped us to have a strong family, because I know I'm a better mom because I didn't think I was going to get to be a mom than I would have been otherwise. Not than other people are, but than I would have been, because I cherish it. And I'm not sure I would have cherished some of those struggles of being a parent quite as much. But the reason that our marriage is strong, and I really can say we have a strong marriage, and the reason that we cling to our kids is because most of the time we're on our knees. We really are on our knees for our kids. A lot of you have probably seen the movie The War Room. And in my bathroom, all around the tub, I have sticky notes, prayers that I'm praying for my kids. And it's a constant thing, even though now they're all over 21. But when we got into politics, one of the things we did, we knew that it was going to be a struggle because we had already run 2 unsuccessful campaigns, and we knew the toll that this life takes on families. So we decided that the kids were going to go with us, and they were going to come along. And let me tell you, this was before there were TVs in cars. And so we had a little TV, a little DVD player with the screen that we duct taped on the arms of the front seat, and we got one of those things you plug into your lighter, and it has the regular plugs, and we watched movies to and from events. And we had the jammies in the back of the van, and so we would do an event, and yeah, Mike says the kids' jammies. And we would always stop and get ice cream, and, it was great taking the kids along because you could say, we'd love to stay for the whole event, but we have to go. We've got the kids with us, and people would say, oh, yes, of course, you go ahead. but we really just made them part of it. When we decided to run for Congress, once the kids were there, we actually showed them the cover of the Life magazine with the baby in the womb, and we said, we're running for Congress for the babies. So they were a part of it. They understood. One time I heard Barbara Bush speak about family, and she said that they moved 25 times. And we're almost there, aren't we? About 20. We're at least about 15 right now. And every time we move, the kids moved with us. And so when we finally got to the stage where we were running for governor, it was election night, and this is a little behind-the-scenes story. We had an opportunity. The kids had said, you know, Mom, we've got something for Dad. We each want to give Dad something. And so they had a present for Dad. Actually, my watercolor over there for auction is what I gave Mike on election night. And the kids all had something for Mike. And, you know, if maybe you don't remember that night, we remember it vividly because it was very long and we weren't sure we were going to win. And when it finally came time to go down and speak to our supporters, we had about 5 minutes, and we were in the Lucas Oil Suite. And, you know, we just didn't feel right just heading down there into the cameras, the roller coaster ride that was getting ready to start to our family. We decided we needed just a few minutes alone. And so we went into the bathroom, just the 5 of us. And the kids said to me, Mom, we got you something. This is where I'm going to cry, okay? But I cry at Coke commercials, so just bear with me. It'll be okay. They said, Mom, we got you something. And I was like, oh my gosh, you guys. But what they gave me is the best present I have ever gotten in my life. So they gave me this. Here, this one comes out, Audrey's. So they gave me this 3-panel little screen. And they said, you know what, Mom? We thought it would be fun to give you a little frame that in each frame we each give you our favorite momism, our favorite thing that you have said over the years. And I thought, well, this will be interesting. So Michael's was, and remember, we come from a political life where, you know, it's a lot of trauma, a lot of drama all the time. And Michael said, this is his quote, I'm not going to let what's going on out there affect what's going on in here. And he said, you have continually safeguarded what matters most in this world. You are the difference. And Charlotte said, the quote was, you teach your kids how to fight for their dreams by fighting for yours. You've shown us how to fight. You've shown me how to fight for my dreams by fighting for our family. Thanks for always being Mom first. Now, Audrey's, I have to tell you, Audrey is our crosswind. and every family has them. And she's the one I pray for the most. And Brenda prays for Audrey. And because Audrey, you know, she's a free spirit. And when we came back to run for governor, Audrey was a senior in high school. And she begged us her junior year, please, please, please don't make me move back to Indiana my senior year. And that's the hardest decision we ever made as a married couple, because we knew that if we didn't take Audrey with us, we would probably lose Audrey forever. We didn't really like the friends she was hanging around with. They were okay, but none of them were believers. None of them shared her faith. And we just told her, Audrey, you may not need to go with us, but we need you to go with us. And it was the best thing that we ever did. But it was rough the first semester because she didn't like her new school and she missed all of her old friends. So one day, I was heading back to Washington just for one meeting I had to finish out. It was like October of Audrey's senior year. And she called me up and she said, Mom, I left school and I'm in downtown Indianapolis and, this just isn't working. And she was, having a meltdown. But I was not in Indiana. And I just sat down on a bench on Capitol Hill and I just said, Audrey, and these are her words, her momism. I get choked up on this one because I didn't know she really heard me. But I said, I'm listening and I hear you. And she said, greatest words I could ever hear. And so when we've had those crosswinds, we've gotten down on our knees or we've, chained our kids to us to build this family. And we cherished our family, as Zorba the Greek said, the whole catastrophe. And we've been blessed to have a faith-filled marriage, and I know what it's like not to have that, and I know what it's like not to have the mom and the dad in the home. We've been blessed, and we have to give all the credit to Jesus Christ that our family is as strong as it is. It's not because of us, but a lot of the families that need the help from Crosswinds don't have that, and they don't have what we've been blessed to have. And so we are so grateful that you all are here tonight making a real difference. You finished.
She said, you finish. Thank you all for having us tonight. And more importantly, we're just really here to say thanks. Thank you for standing behind Crosswinds. Thank you for standing behind all the vulnerable families that they're touching all across the state of Indiana. This is an extraordinarily important ministry, extraordinarily effective. And I just encourage you tonight, as the presentations go forward, to reflect deeply on this work and to think about ways that you and others that you might know across the community might become more involved. I truly do believe the greatest blessing of my life is in my faith in this wonderful woman and in our family. And my heart's desire is that every child in Indiana would be so blessed. So thank you for helping make that more of a reality. And have a wonderful evening. God bless you.
Thank you, Governor. Thank you, Mrs. Pence. Thank you for leading our state courageously, and thank you for loving your family so well. Would you thank the Pences one more time? Yeah, I want to ask our panel if they would come, and we're going to move right along here. And as our panel takes their places, I want to just introduce them to you. So thankful for these men and thankful for the role that they play. We're here tonight to talk about the family. We're here to talk about and to be grateful for the work of Lifeline and Crosswinds as they build into families. At Sweetwater, we have learned to say that when a leader gets better, everybody wins. And we believe that's true. I think you all believe that's true. Anytime a leader improves, everything and everyone they touch has the chance to improve as well. The same thing really can be said, you and I know, the same thing can be said of the family. When a family gets better, when a family gets stronger, when a family gets healthier, everybody in that family and everything that family touches has a chance to win. And each of the men on this stage tonight are given to and devoted to trying to help make families better. They're given to and devoted to our state, to our economic development, and to our children and families. I'm so thankful to have them here. I'm going to just read to you some things that we have for each of them. I know that most of you in the room know them, but let me just introduce them to you tonight. John Sampson is the Northeast Indiana Regional Partnership CEO. John strategically leads the partnership's mission to generate business investment in Northeast Indiana through supporting collaborative relations with with stakeholders, facilitating regional communications, and expanding all channels of business development. Prior to joining the partnership, John served as the Vice President for External Affairs for Indiana Michigan Power and AEP President of Indiana. He also previously served as Site Vice President and Plant Manager of the Donald C. Cook Nuclear Plant in Michigan, and as Maintenance Production Manager at the Washington Nuclear Project No. 2. He holds a BS in Aerospace Engineering from the United States Naval Academy. He's married to Pam and has 2 children, a grandson and a granddaughter. Would you please welcome Mr. John Sampson?
Right now.
Senator Jim Merritt from the great state of Indiana. Jim is devoted to creating a better and safer Indiana. As state senator, Jim embodies integrity and the ability to bring people together. Since 1990, Jim has fought for principled reforms pertaining to education, jobs, fiscal responsibility, health care, and overall the quality of life of his fellow Hoosiers. He is the Majority Caucus Chair State Senator from District 31. He's the Chair of the Utilities Committee, ranking member on the Commerce and Technology Committee, Homeland Security, Public Policy, Joint Rules and Legislative Procedure Committee, and the Veteran Affairs and Military Committees. He serves our faith and our state and the people of our state faithfully. He's a graduate of Indiana University, married to Kelly, 2 daughters and 1 son. Would you all please welcome Jim Merritt, Senator Jim Merritt. And then Mark. We've talked enough about Mark. Mark Terrell. Since '94, has served as the CEO of Lifeline Youth and Family Services. In 2012, he founded Crosswinds to work with children and families who were not in the court system, and also founded Lasting Change to help other organizations achieve internal efficiency, resulting in external mission effectiveness. All 3 organizations, by addressing issues within the home, find solutions needed to reclaim, rebuild, and restore families. He's a 1984 graduate of Taylor University with a bachelor's degree in business, married to Colleen, 4 kids, a grandson, a granddaughter. Again, please welcome and thank Mr. Mark Terrell. All right, we've got some questions here for these gentlemen that we want to ask, and I would just encourage you as we ask the question, there's going to be a great opportunity for us to learn tonight from the things that they share. In every one of these situations and all that these men are a part of, there is one thing that links us together tonight, and that is their passion for, their commitment to, and their desire to see families in this state strengthened. And so as we make our way through the panel, I would just encourage you to listen, and we'll do our best to keep it moving, but we're also going to do our best to speak to things that need to be spoken to as we give time and thought tonight to healthy and growing families. I'm going to start, Mr. Sampson, with you. John, if it's okay. First, John, begin tonight just talking about the big idea. I know with the partnership you guys have what is called the big goal. The big goal, and how does the health of the family play into accomplishing the big goal that you speak so often about?
So the big goal, some have called Northeast Indiana's trip to the moon. It is going to be hard. The big goal is getting us to 60% with 2-year or 4-year degree or a credentialed skill in our workforce. And the big goal focuses on the system, the continuum, all the way from early childhood to higher ed, and understanding that if our students and our young people are not coming out of that system in a way that they can go to work, provide a living for their family, do the things that are important to them in life, if that system doesn't work, our employers are not going to have the talent they need in the future. We have operated a dashboard for all the 10, now 11 counties in Northeast Indiana to track where we are against other Midwest cities. And Fort Wayne in Northeast Indiana right now is 9 out of 10 in our achievement towards the big goals, so we have a ways to go. But that's what employers are looking for. By 2018, we know 60% of their workforce is going to have a credentialed skill, a 2-year degree or 4-year degree. Health of the family, though, not to be overlooked. We're focused on the system, the educational system, workforce development system, But as my wife Pam and I know, that when I have a problem at home, I have a problem at work. I don't leave my personal life at home. I take my personal life with me to work. So when we have families that are not healthy, we know that that detracts from their ability to do and be productive citizens and to be successful in their educational system. It's important. 2 weeks ago, I know somebody's timing me. I only get 3 minutes to answer these questions, but 2 weeks ago, after Christmas, I decided I'm going to clean out my drawers, throw stuff away. So I had this drawer I throw all these cards in. My wife gave me a Father's Day card. I had to read them before I could throw them away, right? So I come to a Father's Day card, and I thought it would be appropriate for tonight. It says, we are blessed in so many ways as we see our kids out there on their own, making good choices, living wisely from the strong foundation of their faith. And that doesn't come from the educational system. It comes from our homes and families.
That's awesome. That's great. John, when you think about everybody here in this room, I think the question reads, what does Northeast Indiana, what does every individual in this room need to do? What is it that we can be engaged in and give ourselves to in order to be a role model to other communities and other cities in the state?
So I'm not a native to Indiana, didn't grow up in Fort Wayne or Northeast Indiana. I'm blessed to be here. But we are living out of a history and legacy of being very modest, being very hardworking, being very humble about who we are and what we accomplish. And it's my view of what we have as Hoosiers is we have a bold future ahead of us if we're willing to take the courage to make that happen. And so for us to be we could be a role model for other Midwest cities that are living from the history of being termed this Rust Belt. That is not us anymore. And it starts with our families and our willingness to take risk and try bold and difficult things. Even if we fail, we need to take bold and difficult steps to change from our past and to make our communities better, to invest in who we are and what we're going to be in the future. Our history is wonderful. It is not our future. And families play an important role of having that kind of courage, the ability to take that risk, to step out and do things that we've not done in the past.
Lastly, John, we want to say congratulations for what's happened recently with the Regional Cities Initiative. And before I go on, for someone in the room who might not know what that means, we're congratulating you on that. What happened and what's the significance of it, first of all?
Well, thanks to the leadership of Governor Pence, we had an opportunity to win a $42 million grant to match local money and investment for quality of place investments.
That's great.
Hard assets. And I'm looking right at Eric Doden, who had the first vision to go out and see in other communities what that was like. We now have a chance to grow our community from about 800,000 to 1 million people. And that's numbers. But what's really important to this room in Crosswinds is the quality of how we grow from 800,000 to 1 million. That's as important as the number itself, is who we are and what we're going to be in the future. And the families are the cornerstone, the foundation of that. So growing to 1 million people in itself is not the answer. It's how we get to 1 million people, our character, our quality, the kinds of things that we're able to do to compete in a global marketplace. That starts in our homes and our families.
Would you all thank John for his service in our community? Thank him for his leadership with the Northeast Indiana Partnership. Senator Merritt, first of all, we want to thank you for your service to our state. We're grateful for the work that you do, and it has been well documented, the work that you've done against drug abuse and drug prevention. And as we think about the family, obviously many of us in the room understand the role that drugs has had in the breakdown of the family. We want to ask you tonight, if you would, as we start, what are some things that you're doing? What are some things that we're doing as a state with your leadership as we deal with this drug epidemic?
Well, first of all, thank you very much for having me. I love Fort Wayne. I really enjoyed the state convention when I was up here last. And I think I've been here before, or since, I should say. But you're very lucky to have Eric Doden. You're very lucky to have Jim Banks. And all the delegation, including Senator Long, at the State House offers so much talent and provides so much help to really a great place we are in the state of Indiana. And One thing that the First Lady either forgot or just omitted is that our own Brenda Gerber Vincent is on the Bicentennial Commission. She spends a lot of time representing Fort Wayne, and I'm on the Bicentennial Commission, and I think of it as one of the best parts of my being in politics. And celebrating our 200th birthday, I've looked forward to this for a long time, and it's going to be a great year for our state. And I'm just appreciative that you're having me here this evening. I spent a lot of time out around the state and talking about the Lifeline Law and talking about addiction and talking about alcohol and drugs. And if I go on too long, you'll just have to hook me here, because I have a partnership with the Indiana Youth Services Association. Maybe some of you know them. They keep a track of how many people that I speak to, and we could add probably 500. We've talked with 54,000 people in the last 3 years regarding all these issues that do affect the family, that families are struggling with. And Wendy Davis and I talk a lot about this, being on the drug task force, and the governor is so eloquent with his prevention and all that. I just call it the Pence Drug Task Force because it's simple. But we are very lucky that Mike recognized this now and early, because it's obviously hooking in every cul-de-sac and every family. And people ask me, well, what do we do? How do we go forward? And it feels a little like turning a cruise ship around in a creek, because we hear about so much problem with heroin. We hear so much about addiction. I was speaking to 600 seniors at Fishers High School last fall. And usually when I talk to kids, I used to have them cover their eyes or whatever, but they're adults now. They're 18 years old, and it's sad that our kids are 18 years old and really considered adults, because they have to be, because of everything that's hitting them. But I asked them, how many of you have thought about, how many of you considered, or have a friend that's considered dying by suicide? And they look at me, and one person, you mean committing suicide? No, dying by suicide, because if we don't change the terms and the language and soften it, we're never going to solve anything in this state or this world. And out of 600 kids, 2/3 of the hands go up. Now, ladies and gentlemen, that is plain scary, that kids would actually think about that. In the role the parents have to they know, to usher that in and make sure that they're comfortable and they're safe and they're secure. And when people talk about what we start, it's all about the language. It's all about a sense of empathy. It's about spirit of hope, and that we're all the same. It's an illness. Addiction is an illness. It's a disease. It is not a character flaw. It is not a character flaw. And we have to get to a situation where everybody is the same, and we're talking about in soft terms. Because if we don't do that, no program, no law, no amount of money is going to get us out of this rut. There's no question in my mind that if we don't put a strong foundation on the house that we want to build, we're not going to be successful. So it's talking about dying by suicide. It's talking about addiction being not a part of their character. It's about softening the terms. And our role as families and as parents and as brothers and sisters, it is definitely the idea and the solution of making a good foundation for that house that we're going to build, because we will solve the addiction problem. And as well as what I talk to people also is about mental illness. You know, University of Michigan has a depression center up there. I want to bring one to Indianapolis, because I don't know if anybody has seen the 11 minutes that John Oliver does on mental illness. If you haven't, you need to see it, because it's all about terms. It's all about how we handle this. And I'm excited about this because I see solutions. And I see us solving this quicker than than most people think we can. And we all know it's a global problem that's affecting all of us.
Thank you, Senator. Would you thank the Senator for his insights?
Good. Good stuff.
It's good to hear from you. Mark, let me just ask you this, and then we're going to actually turn it over to you here in just a couple of minutes and let you begin to wrap it up. But again, Mark, just look at the room. And as you look out here at all these folks, answer this. First of all, why are you so passionate about Crosswinds, you personally, and why should they be? Why is it that this room full of folks, 400 and some, why should they care as deeply, work as hard, give themselves to it as much as you do?
Sure. Well, it's not a simple answer, but the first thing is this: I love Fort Wayne. And I love Northeast Indiana. I've been here over 30 years. And to be very honest, I want very much for my children and my grandchildren to want to live here, to work here, to worship here. This is my family. You can say ooh or ah. I just got this picture, a picture like this the other day, and I Facebooked it, and I said, I am blessed. The only way that they will consider coming here is if we are different, if we have something different to offer. I want Fort Wayne in Northeast Indiana to be the example for the rest of the country. I want people to want to come here. I know we visit other places, and that's great. I love getting ideas. But I can't wait to the day they come here and they say, why? How have you done what you've done? And I believe it starts with the family. That's what I'm passionate about. Why should you be interested? I'll just continue on. I'll be very honest that there is nothing, if you look at statistics, if you look at data, there is nothing that affects economics, health, behavior, and education more than the family. There's a really interesting piece of data which I find fascinating, that if you eat with your family 3 times a week, and there's some data in the brochure that says 86% of families don't have time to be with their kids. You're 3 times more likely to have educational success, 3 times likely less to have drug and alcohol issues. You're 3 times more likely to have better health and behavior if you eat with your family 3 times a week. Can you believe that? It's that simple. And it begins with the family. I am absolutely passionate. I believe it is the main thing that will change our community, change our state, and I love this state. I love this community. I want to say this, and I'm so thankful for what John and Senator Merritt and the governor and his wife, I thought that was extraordinary to hear what they had to say about not having a perfect family. I don't have a perfect family. I don't think there's a perfect family out there. But I will tell you this, that as we work together, it is not a part of the solution. It is the solution. Education used to be just the thing. Let's educate everybody and everything's fine. I talked to a person, he says, what we've done is we have educated criminals. We need to do more than that. The social experiment has not worked. I am ready, Crosswinds is ready, Lifeline is ready to change.
And what could every person in this room do to help?
To be involved.
Yeah.
Well, I'll be very honest. Last year we had our first Jazzin Up January, and there was something that happened that was very surprising to us. When we walked out the next week, we had 8 people call us for help. What we're talking about isn't downtown, isn't across, the other side of the tracks. It's where I grew up. That's an old adage. It's in this auditorium right now. It's the people you live with. It's your friends, it's your neighbors, it's your people that work with, that, John said that your employees bring this with them. And I will tell you there are 3 things that keep people from getting the help that they need. And I am going to say this till I'm blue in the face. The first one is this, is that people are embarrassed. People are not getting the help they need because they are afraid of, what will my neighbor say? What will my parents say? And it's a terrible reason to not get the help you need. I can't tell you how many parents come to me at age 17 and a half. And I've said this again and again. You know why they come to me at 17 and a half? Because they know in 6 months that child is an adult and they have no more control. I have spent most of my career at Lifeline working within the system. We must figure out a way to work with them before they get in the system. We must find that way. The second is too much information. If we don't know what to do, what do? We Google, we Yahoo, whatever it's amazing. You can find out any answer, right? There's too much information that I mentioned earlier. Do you even know the questions to ask? And the last one, ego and pride. That's a tough one. Ego and pride. But when your son or daughter calls you at night in detention, or they have an addiction, your ego and pride will go away. We have a solution, and I want to share that solution with you. The barrier, embarrassment. We have 2 ways that we can help, and I want to make sure very clear. I'm talking about people in this room. I'm not talking about the poor. I'm talking about the poor, the middle class, and the wealthy. I'm talking about a lawyer. I'm talking about doctors. I'm talking about politicians. No one is exempt. Embarrassment. We have decided to eliminate the barrier. We actually come into the home and we work in the home with the whole family. And in fact, we can even do it over the internet. Isn't that amazing? No one has to know. I had a doctor call me one day and said, I need help with my son. I explained to him what we would do. His one question to me was, do I have to sit in a waiting room? What was he saying? It wasn't that he wasn't worried about the waiting room. He didn't want anybody to see. I said, we can be there. No one will know we're there. How quickly can you be here? The second one is information overload. We have full-time trained people, 24 hours, that if you call them, they can give you answers. And if we can't be the right one, we'll send you to the right place. And the last one, ego and pride. Coaching. Shared about it a little earlier. Sounds a little bit better than counseling, doesn't it? Do you know how much different it is? About that much different. I don't care. I just want our families to be healthy. I want our state to be the best state, our best region, best city. And I believe this is how you go about it.
That's awesome. Would you all thank our panel and their contribution to the night?
Thank you, guys. Thank you. And I don't think he's glowing. First of all, I want to, again, thank our honored guests. It was great that the governor and his wife could join us. And I thank you very much, John and Senator Merritt and Kelly, for being here tonight. But I'd also like you to thank somebody else before I kind of end our evening. I have 10 of what I consider our best and our brightest staff that are here tonight, that do the work that I'm talking to you about. And they just happened to be here tonight. They were able to be here tonight. And again, I'd like them to stand. And would you recognize them? My staff, part of Lifeline and Crosswinds, you stand up. They're here somewhere in the room somewhere. You can stand up. That's okay. Thank you. Well, this is the Brenda Gerber time. I'm just joking. I don't know where Brenda is. She's grinning over there. But I want to tell you that I made a mistake last year at our event, at our Jazzin Up January event. And after the event, someone said, well, Mark, you raised $100,000. We just don't really know how you're going to spend it. I didn't have a problem spending it. I just wanted you to know. But they wanted to know why. In fact, frankly, I think they would have given more. I'm not going to make that same mistake. Our goal tonight is to raise $200,000. Last year we raised about $100,000, and our goal is to raise up $200,000. And I want to explain to you exactly what we're going to do with it. And I know it's on the screen already, but I'm going to give you a little bit more detail. I need 100 more workers to do what I'm being asked to do right now. 100. Not to do what do I want to do, what I'm being asked to do today. I need you to know that they don't exist today. I have headhunters. I've done job searches. I have a full-time person that does nothing but social media. I've done every possible way to hire and recruit staff all over the state of Indiana. They do not exist with the degrees and education that I need. And especially, we're looking for people of faith, which makes our pool even smaller. Our plan is to use the $200,000 to do two things. One is we want to spend about $140,000 to help our staff and new employees get the degrees that they need to be able to help us. We need 100. 100 new employees will allow us to work with 1,000 more families a year. It's significant. The second thing we're going to do is we're going to put $60,000 into what we call student debt or loan forgiveness. And let me help you understand why. I understand some kids have made stupid decisions, gone to school, had a bunch of debt, and I had to be honest, I feel absolutely no inclination to help them. Personally. That's not every person's situation. We have teachers, we have social workers that get into the profession, they have mountains of debt, and they cannot afford to get their education, and they cannot afford to stay in this ministry. I need to be able to keep the quality people I have. I need to help them be able to get the education. That's why we're going to raise the $200,000. We are not apologizing for it. We need it. Not only do we need it, you need it. Many times you come to an event, and I've been to a lot of events, and I see some of you at the same events I'm at. And some of you are a lot more events than I am. But I've not been to an event in a long time that touches every single person in this room. Whether you're a parent, your neighborhood, your friends, your cousins, your employees. I'm telling you, if we want to be a phenomenal community, we need to start with the family, and we need your help. I'm asking you to consider investing in Crosswinds. I'm asking you to consider investing in something that's going to affect you personally and directly. And I cannot say it any more clearly. Brenda's my coach in this area. And she said, do not apologize. I'm not apologizing. On your table, you're going to have, there's an envelope. You've been to these before. There's an envelope there. And we want you to consider investing in our community, investing in the families in our community. We need to raise $200,000. There are some people in this audience that can write a check for all of it. I don't expect it. There's some people that can only give me $10. Fine. Help me build an army. Help me build an army to fight for the families that are in our community. I'm going to give you a few minutes to think about it, pray about it, and when in a couple minutes I'll ask some staff to come by. They'll pick up the checks or the envelope, and they'll also pick up any questions you might have. So I'm just going to give you a few minutes to consider this, and I'll be back in just a minute, and I'll nod to my staff. Thank you.
Staring at the ceiling.
if I could ask my staff, I know that they've been assigned to certain tables, if they could go ahead and start to get in position and to be able to do that. We'll just give you about another 15, 20 seconds, and then I'll close this for the evening. Well, I want to personally thank you all for being here tonight. The committee, Brenda and Jackie and many of our committee have done a phenomenal job. And I want to personally thank them in front of all of you for what they've done tonight. But I also want to thank you very much for being here, considering your investment in what we're doing. And again, if we could go ahead and start collecting those. Please, if you have questions, we'd love that. Again, I want to thank you for being here tonight, and you are dismissed. Thank you very much.